Okay, here's a pro tip if you're wanting to make a game. Don't develop your game chronologically. Instead, consider starting development in the middle of your game and then moving outwards from there. Game design is a very iterative process, so as you continue further along into development of your game, you will gain a better understanding of what exactly your game needs in terms of level, character, and game mechanic design. Now, you'll often see many first-timers to game design begin developing their first game. Now, they immediately set to work designing their title screen, and then moving on to their first level, their tutorial if the game has one, and then continuing on in a sort of linear fashion from here. Now, this can present some issues because, broadly speaking, the last level enemy or the game mechanic that you make is often the strongest in terms of the best polish that you have available for your game. Just because you've been making it so long at this point, you've gotten really good at doing so. Developing it in this way puts the best content you have available towards the end of your game, like let's say the last third, and it leaves the weakest content in your game towards the beginning of the game. This is potentially a really big problem because in the current market for games that we have at this time, you have to make a really solid impression. So there are many games, especially indie titles, around right now that if you don't grab your audience within the first, say, 10 or 15 minutes of playing the game, then you can potentially lose them to another game altogether and they'll never pick up your game again. You really want to make the best first impression for your game that you possibly can, and the first thing that a player sees upon loading up your game is your title screen and your first couple of levels. These first parts of the game need to be some of the tightest and best designed sections that you have available, because you only have a limited time frame in which to hook the player and want them to continue moving further forward in your game rather than ditching it and moving on to something else. Start development instead at the middle section of the game, because by the time the players have reached the middle point of your game, they should already be invested through your game mechanics, your plot line, your characters, to continue moving forward, and that should be compelling them to continue playing the rest of the experience that you've created. Having a weaker section here or there in the middle of the game is not as big of a deal breaker as it is having it right at the very start, so when they boot up your game for the first time they go, yeah, this isn't really for me. This approach to game design isn't a new concept. Some of the classic id Software titles, for example, follow this exact same process. So games like Doom, Doom 2, Quake, and lots of other games that are considered classics throughout the years follow this same sort of procedure, where they've developed the first section of the game towards the end of development. And just in case you don't believe me, because I'm just some guy on the internet, what would I know about game design? Here's John Romero from id Software telling you the exact same thing.
Hey, here's kind of a golden rule of level design. Finish the first level last.
Yep.
Because then you've learned everything about the game's level design, and you're going to put it all on the first level where you want people to get excited anyway.
Yep.
So, so I'm like, let the middle of the game kind of be the less interesting part and make the beginning and the end more exciting.
Yeah.
There you go. Just something to think about.